overview. The main overview of the road diet 4-3 lane conversion that I'm managing for the county. This is a 2024 project. We got funding for this project through HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program. It's a federal program. And it was identified as part of a 4-3 lane conversion study that was done a couple years ago that checked out different county roads and kind of saw which ones would benefit the most from these conversions. We have done, gosh, I don't know the exact number, but I did do an analysis of the ones that we have done in the past. It's about, I would say somewhere about 5 or 7, something like that, different conversions. So I did a before and after analysis of what the crashes look like, one by one, type by type. And overall, there was a reduction of 30% in crashes of all types when all compiled together. So there is a big driver for these. They do work and they benefit both motorists and pedestrians and bicyclists as well. So like Maggie mentioned earlier, this the extents or the limits of this project are just north of Front and Como. I believe there might be plans for that, not from a county standpoint, but in years in the future, because it is a big intersection. But it is not part of this intersection, this project rather. This goes up to 36. Can you see my mouse cursor? Okay, great. So it goes up to just north of 36, and again, essentially, this is a glorified mill and overlay. And so, just to give those of us who are not as familiar with construction, the main difference between a mill and overlay and what would be a reconstruction is that the mill and overlay essentially just picks up the top layer, puts it back down, and it's an opportunity for us as a county to do some restriping. Another difference is that the changes and the improvements stay within or outside of the curb line, so within the road, whereas a reconstruction might involve more work into the sidewalk, more permanent easements, more of those things. So this is essentially a restriping, resurfacing project with some signal replacements and modifications all along this corridor. So there's 5 signals that will be either replaced or modified. And this is also to correlate with the new lane assignment, as well as to be able to operate in coordination. So in addition to the 4-3 lane conversion, bicycle lanes will be marked from here throughout the whole extent of the project. And there will be pedestrian enhancements throughout the corridor as well. If you're wondering what those are, we refer to pedestrian enhancements when we're talking about refuge islands. These are in the center of what would be the center lane, and I do have a schematic here to show in a little bit. But in any case, that's the long and short of the project. And so Ramsey County hired a consultant for the community outreach aspect of this project, and this is very much a graphic that they put together just to kind of show what this project is going to entail from a input standpoint. And so we had our first meeting here. We're going to have a second meeting and then the third one. And essentially the first one, we say, here's the concept we have, talk to us, fill out the comment forms, give us everything and anything. And so we, along with a consultant, our job is to process all of these comments. And boy, did we had a great turnout. So I'm happy to say that, because I'm always happier to see a big turnout than an open house with just a few residents, because I guess I like the information and the comments from the public. So in any case, the first meeting was very much for us to inform you this is a project, but also give us your feedback. The second meeting, which will be closer to the summer, more so than spring, will involve another layout that says, here's what we heard, here's what we can do given what the nature of this project is. And then finally in the winter, closer to January 2024, we would say, based on the first and second meeting and what we can do, this is basically the 90% concept. And so in construction, we usually refer to loosely as 30, 60, and 90% plans. And so just a quick overview of the corridor again. This does cover 2 different cities, as you are aware, is the city of St. Paul and Roseville. While the cross section and the road diet will be fairly uniform throughout, we do acknowledge and recognize that we're dealing with two somewhat different sections that are on this corridor. So the St. Paul section is more surrounded by residential areas, whereas, and there's probably more opportunity for different pedestrian enhancements, given that there's more residential areas, but there are crossing opportunities here as well, given that there's a trail, and then other comments from the residents that came through as well in the Roseville area as well. So this part is you look at it and it's more so, it feels like it's designed for vehicles. There's less sidewalks, and again, there's a big cemetery, you know, attached to another cemetery here as well. And so for the most part, this project will remain within the curb lines and on the roadway. So what was the main reason for this project? And obviously it's safety. It's called the Dale Street Safety Conversion, and it's called that for a reason. So when we took a look at the crashes of 5-year history from 17 to 2021, that's what was available at the time. And not only that, but that's when everything was put together for the open house in January 10th of this year. This is how the crashes break down all along the corridor. I wish I'd written down the total crashes, but just doing some quick math, I mean, you got 130, 150, 170. So you got about 175, 180 crashes here in 5 years. Obviously, the intersections are going to be the hottest spots because that's where the most conflict points exist. But in any case, as I mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, we have found that there is, generally speaking, a reduction of 30% crashes when these are implemented. So part of the reason for that is that there's a reduction, or rather there's fewer lanes for pedestrians to cross. Now they're crossing 3 lanes as opposed to 4 lanes of traffic. And then in some of these cases, the center lane of those 3 lanes will be a refuge island where they could actually stand and wait if there's not an opportunity to keep crossing. And then also there's a lane reduction as well, there's also a traffic calming effect for more consistent speeds. And as we know, speeding has been a problem not only in the Twin Cities, but in Minnesota, and then largely in the United States in general. Something about the pandemic just kind of you know, let a lot of people think that they could just drive as they please. So in any case, that's another benefit of 4 to 3 lane conversions, is a reduction in speeds as well. Oh, and then I should mention, this is how the crashes break down by severity, and this is how they break down as by type. That's basically how we look at crashes as traffic engineers. As an example, intersection here, we have Maryland, in which we had 3 bike crashes, 3 ped crashes, one of them which was a serious crash, which is just short of being a fatal fatality. And then 7 of 38 crashes at this intersection were angle crashes. And so this is a particularly good example of what an intersection that would benefit from a 4 to 3 lane conversion, just given that you got a wide turning radius, and then that double threat, which is when you have you know, 2 vehicles approaching, and then the pedestrian might come and, you know, think that there might not be another one coming, and then, you know, they'll keep going and something terrible happens. So less pedestrian distance to cross is usually a good thing when it comes to you know, conflict areas with the motorists. And again, this is a typical cross section. So what we have currently is the existing 4 lane section, which we've all taken a look. I actually, when I was driving to the open house on January 10th, there was obviously the mounds of snow already piled up, and I saw some people just straight up walking on the outer lane with their dogs, and I was pretty taken aback by that, because for, you know, the storage of the snow, they were not able to walk on the sidewalk for that reason. So the existing 4 lane will be changed to a 3 lane, as previously stated. This is a cross section in which there's no refuge island. This is what most of the corridor is going to look like. So you have your 3 lanes, and then your shoulder / bike lane. And then where there is a refuge, pedestrian refuge, it's essentially the same thing, but the center portion is labeled as you're not able to, as a motorist, cross it and turn left from it. And so it becomes a place for pedestrians to cross step by step across the road, very much like it shows right here on this aerial, which is the layout that we showed at the open house. So what did we hear from the open house, from the residents? To your right, you see the bigger the circle, the bigger the comment, or the more common the thread. And so what the consultant for the community engagement did is they very much broke down 80 plus community members comments, which were about 155. This also includes emails that I received and responded to one by one. And so the way to, what's that saying? Like, what's the best way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And so what we did to do this was very much to, if somebody had a concern or a comment, sometimes there was various threads within that comment that dealt with potentially pedestrians and transit. And so just because they mentioned pedestrians first didn't mean that we would forget about the transit comment, for example. And so these categories were developed to be able to put all of the comments into perspective. And then from that, these are just some of the different comments that we heard. And then so each comment was split into all the different themes that the comment touched upon, just as an example. And so what are the next steps? Well, I just met with our designer who is very much going to process comments from MnDOT, because we met with MnDOT, being that this crosses Trunk Highway 36, that its northern limits. We met with Med Transit because there's an opportunity to improve some of these bus stops. There are, for example, the Larpenteur Southeast bus stop location gets muddy even when there's no snow, and there's hardly a place for residents to stand. And so anything we can do, even though it's not part of the road type, but that's easy, or it could still fit within the scope of our budget, we will try to do that. And so we met with, like I said, MnDOT, Med Transit, the citizens, or rather the residents, and then also the representatives for the city of Roseville and the city of St. Paul as well. So we just want to get everybody's opinion so that there's no surprises. And then once we process all these comments that have come through, then we developed something that's closer to the 60%, something that's closer to what's going to be shown at the second open house for the residents. And that's what we'll implement, whatever we can implement based on what we heard and based on what's possible and feasible. That's the next step. Obviously, after that, we would share it at the open house and then get some additional input, but very much, having a better idea as to what's going to happen along this corridor. That's very, very much the long and short of this. If there's any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Luis. Well, there we go. Yeah, are there questions? I see we've got somebody else who has joined us here, but yeah, thank you. And then we'll just open it up for questions.
Hey, Luis, it's Jonathan. What was the decision, or why was the decision made not to include Front Street and that intersection and not go any further than that?
I wish I had an answer for you. This is a project that I picked up. I suspect that part of the reason is that it would bring in a lot more complexities that would put us at risk for what's known as scope creep, which is when your budget just starts ballooning and ballooning and ballooning. And so we were very much going off of what was identified based on a study, a 4-to-3 lane study of all of our county roads, which ones were the best opportunities for us to do this. And so I'm giving you my best guess. I don't have an absolute straight answer or clear answer, but I could certainly follow up with you after that. But that would be my guess, is that if you incorporate this intersection, and for some reason I still thought I was sharing my screen here, but I have it on my screen here. I can share it quick. So if we were to, can you see my screen there?
Yes.
Great. So yeah, as you can see, if you were to incorporate this intersection, it would just be, it would make the whole project much more complex than we would probably want it to be for a 4-to-3 lane conversion, plus pedestrian enhancements, et cetera. So I could certainly follow up with you, Jonathan, to get a clear, more historical basis for my answer.
Luis, thanks so much for the presentation. This is Laura Oyen. What I was wondering, maybe piggybacking off on Jonathan's question, but it's not it's just curiosity. Is there going to be any other road issues going from this intersection towards St. Paul? Is that going to be like another option if the study went the whole thing, or was this a convenient place to break it, is one question. But my other question is, would there be opportunity for any public art or community art? We've been talking about identifying the Como neighborhood as a neighborhood and with some distinction, whether it's flags or artwork or something. Is there an opportunity for public art through this process?
I guess I'll answer your first question. You were asking if there's an opportunity or if there's a desire to do anything further south, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I don't think so as part of what was identified. What was identified is based on AEDT, how many vehicles are going by, and then also a crash history. And so my thinking is that as we specified as 180 crashes roughly along this corridor. And so that probably kind of drove it up the list as far as priorities. I don't think there's something south of there, but if you Google Ramsey County lane 4 to 3 lane conversions, you can actually see the study. And sorry if it looks black and white. I dim my screen because all the white kind of gets to my eyes. But here's the study. And in fact, you know what? I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah. So there's the study, and I don't believe that's a spot, but I could be mistaken. But this very much breaks down what the reasoning was, and then it has a very helpful map here. As you can see, here's our Dale Street section. And then there's other ones that were identified that were either already done or there will probably be done in the next few years. And then as far as the public arts, I don't believe we do that, if at all, or too often on county roads or just based on the speeds. I think they're more common on city roads. But that's not to say that there isn't. I just don't know what a good spot for that would be. If you want to follow up with me after and you have some conversations or any spots that you can think of, or obviously we would need to justify it, but I don't foresee that being a part of this project. From what I understand, art is usually reserved for lower speed roads, and at least that's the way I've seen it when I've been driving through St. Paul and Minneapolis.
Maybe one follow-up question is
Sure.
that is it could be just even considered banners on light posts or something like that. I don't know if through this project you update any lighting along the way, or is that farther off the side so it stays the way it is?
Yeah, that's we typically don't update lighting as part of again, it's essentially a mill and overlay project that we happen to get federal funding for. And so we said, hey, why don't we make this into, something a little bigger, but still keep it as a mill and overlay. And so since the lights and the lighting would be outside of the, or into the curb outside of the road, it's not part of the scope of this project.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Other questions for Luis?
Luis, when you say that, does that include curb cuts? Does this project have any curb cuts for the pedestrian improvements?
Yes, and that's actually a very good question. So I'm saying generally speaking, we're going to stay within the boundaries of the curb, but obviously when you're dealing with ADA improvements that will be done as part of the modifications and the signal replacements, you have to do updates to the ramps and the curves. And then obviously, if once we identify the opportunities for pedestrian enhancements like the ped refuges and potentials for, I don't know if you know what RFBs are, the rectangular rapid flashing beacons. They're very much a pedestrian press a button and they go flash. So there's an opportunity for those as well. And so if there will, or not if, where there will be pedestrian enhancements and ADA upgrades, there will surely be curb cuts.
And with that, you were talking about flashing pedestrian crossing. Would those be like solar powered button pressing that people could say, yep, I'm ready to cross, that sort of thing?
Right. And actually, I managed a project that just completed last year along University Avenue. And I don't know if you've seen it or not, but there's 8 locations where people press a button and there's a light and they're able to get back and forth from the green line, which runs along the median of University and St. Paul. So it's very
They have
much like
flashing
those.
lights now with that on University.
Can you say that again? I'm sorry, Laura.
They have flashing lights then so that you can
Yes.
press it. Awesome, because I wrote that in as a complaint because I was terrified of hitting someone going
Yes.
through. Thank
Yes,
you.
they're, yeah, no, they have a very good, sometimes implementations of traffic have an initial very good response, and then over time, it just kind of starts to wane. These tend to hold on to a lot of that beginning, response from motorists. And so I think it's given just by the fact that they're so dang bright, and they flash in a very peculiar way. They really, really grab your attention. So we're going to see where there's an opportunity for one or two of these along this corridor as well.
So Luis, Jonathan again. So
Yes.
what's the budget for the project, and how much of that budget is being funded by the feds?
You caught me. Luckily, I have it open here, but it is part of the application. I do believe it's 3.2 million.
I think it was in the minutes too. And there was
Okay.
some matching money and everything was laid out in the, 'cause there's a PDF of the budget in the minutes.
Okay.
In that project application for federal funding there, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say it's about 3 roughly, and the federal funding is 2/3 of that. And I opened the application, but as you know, PDFs can be a little unreliable sometimes when they're big files. And so this is the application, I believe, was linked in the agenda. But here we state what here it is. Federal amount 2, yeah, it's 3.5. So I misspoke. I said 3, and match amount is 1.5. So
Great, thank you.
yes, you're welcome.
Other questions for Luis?
I just wanted to mention one more time to Luis that District 10 Como Community Council does have a lot of community events on our calendar. I did invite you to the Northdale event a few weeks ago, and you weren't able to.
Right.
Make it. But while you're here, our next event is May 13th. That's at Orchard Rec, which is not far from Dale Street either.
Will you? I was gonna write it down, but will you follow up? You're Chevek, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will you follow up with me so that I can put that on my calendar, or I could follow up?
Yeah, I'll email it to you tomorrow, but yeah, so May 13th, and then we have an ice cream social that we get 600 people at every year. Like these events, they draw a lot more than you're gonna get at a county engagement event, and as great as that one was, this is just an easy opportunity to collaborate. If it happens to line up with your engagement schedule, so
Right.
I really encourage you guys to come because it gives you guys a lot of residents' voices, but it also helps our events be more meaningful and not just fun and games, so.
Right. Yeah, and I do like ice cream, so I might take you up on that. So
All right, I'll get a hold of you.
I put my email on the chat just in case any questions come up. You could always just holler at me. We do have a project website that we are updating as we have more information. Dale Street, Ramsey, and it's not the safety conversion. Oh no, I should have Googled this prior. This was the promotion for it, but in any case, there is, it's not this I don't know why they call it a reconstruction, even though it says safety conversion. That's what threw me off. Here it is. That's the one. And this is what we're updating as we learn more with, the summary of what we heard from the residents during the open house. So.
Well, thank you so much, Luis. We appreciate it. I think, folks are anxious to see this project, see how it shakes out here. So we appreciate your time tonight. Any parting questions before we send Luis on his way out into the storm? All right. Well, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. You'll have a good meeting.
All right.